You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, in which I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry. This is all to provide you with education and inspiration. And speaking of education and inspiration, are you on Clubhouse yet? Have you heard the buzz? Well, at the end of today's episode, I'm going to tell you about an episode coming up real soon in which we talk all about Clubhouse. And if you're currently on, follow me at Andy Kushner and also follow the Wedding Biz Club, where I put out additional content. So if you missed last week's episode, I had both Tara Fay and Bruce Russell on. Tara Fay is with Tara Fay Events based in Dublin. She's produced some of the most high-profile events and weddings in Ireland, throughout Europe, and in the USA and Caribbean. And Bruce Russell is the owner and managing director of By Bruce Russell. Based in London, he plans, designs, and coordinates weddings, parties, and other events all around the globe. And then on Wednesday, I had a panel of wonderful event professionals who are giving their time and effort to help us all from various chapters of the Live Event Coalition to hear the recent progress of the organization. So today's episode is the second roundtable. The first one was about takeaways from an Engage Summit and was held on the last day of Engage 19 at Nazook with Rishi Patel, CARRIE GOLDBERG, and CHRISTINA MATTEUCCI. And that was episode number 214, if you missed it. And this time, I've added Augusta Cole to the mix, and together we talk about what we've learned from going through the COVID pandemic and how it's changed us personally and with our businesses. We also talk about how we've applied what we've learned and also discuss what events might look like post-COVID. So let me first introduce my panel, and then I'll bring them on. Rishi Patel is the CEO of HMR Designs, and he was interviewed one-on-one on episode 143. CARRIE GOLDBERG is the travel and weddings director at Harper's Bazaar. She was on episodes number 186 and 285, and also some of the Next Level episodes. CHRISTINA MATTEUCCI is the executive director of David Beahm Destination. She was on episode 188 and also came on with David Beahm on episode 307. And Augusta Cole is a planner designer with Augusta Cole Weddings and Events based out of New York City now. And she helped me with the Next Level episode of 189. So enjoy this incredible conversation with Rishi, CARRIE, CHRISTINA, and Augusta. Hey, everyone. It is so good to have, Rishi, CARRIE, and CHRISTINA, and Augusta. Welcome back to the Wedding Biz.
Hi, Andy. Great to be here.
Good to be back.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. And, I'm going to go deep. I want to go right into it. I'm going to start with you, CHRISTINA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to put you right on the spot. You're going to kick it off.
Give it to me.
Listen, you did a TEDx talk. You're ready for this.
I'm ready. Let's go.
After that. No, what I would love to know from each of you is, after this year that we have all been through with the pandemic, like how has it affected you personally in terms of what you've taken out of it, what you've learned from it, how you think you might have changed?
Yeah. Okay. That you
That's loaded.
That's loaded. That is
yeah,
loaded.
I figure we're going to get right into it. And I know you're going to help take us there, CHRISTINA.
Yeah. No, I think as the grandchild of immigrants, I grew up hearing stories about the struggle of coming to the United States, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the polio outbreak. And it was always very, very distant. And while I've lived through personal traumas in my life, the passing of my father and national traumas like 9/11, I think what the pandemic has made me realize is what a relatively easy and safe life I've been privileged to live over the past 41 years. I just dated myself on your show. And so that strength that I witnessed in my grandparents came through living through very, very difficult times. And now that same strength, I believe, has been forged in this generation, and it's been forged in me. So I think I've learned that I am, and we are, stronger than we think. We're more resilient than we think. We're more tenacious than we think. We're more resourceful than we think, and we persist. So my hope is that we as a human collective are able to channel that power, that bravery, and the brilliance that's come out of this into a better world for us all.
Do you feel that you yourself are stronger for this experience?
1,000%.
Like, what's one of the big things that comes to mind?
I truly didn't. I've always said I'm a strong woman. I pride myself in being a very strong woman, but I didn't really know how strong I was. And this time has tried me emotionally, mentally, physically, and I think I have a lot more confidence in not that I was lacking in confidence before, but like, I have a lot more really quiet confidence in myself. I'm steelier, if you will. And I think that goes for a lot of us in the industry, but in New York and in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same thing too. What about Carrie? How about yourself? What do you think? What do you feel you've learned through this experience?
I mean, I echo Christina's sentiment about strength, mainly because 2020, I mean, I kind of have a controversial opinion about it. I needed 2020 in a real way. I mean, I think I looked at my life in 2019, and on paper, I kind of had accomplished a lot of milestones that I wanted to in my life. And by the end of it, I was supremely unhappy. And I had 3 big goals for myself in 2020. One of them was to develop a self-care regimen that allowed me to feel better about myself physically. The other was to get back into therapy to take care of myself mentally, because I had let both of them slip. And the last one was to work more remotely so that I could actually take some stock in my own personal and professional priorities. I didn't really mean to manifest us all working remotely full time, but I very much got all 3 of those in spades. And I'm after a year of, trauma on many levels for many people, I'm much happier for it. So I've left a very hard year, a much better version of myself. So I'm pretty pleased with how 2020 turned out in that regard, despite the, overwhelming hardship of it on paper.
Yeah, I could resonate with that. You're talking, and anyone can come in at any time, by the way, not just me here, just everyone feel free. But yeah, I have to admit, I was starting to feel pretty burned out, myself. And although things were, really tough, especially financially, immediately, everything coming to such a stop. I mean, I got the music and entertainment, so, I couldn't even do micro weddings. But to be able to just really chill out, wow, and I want to come back to that in a few minutes. But what about you, Augusta? I mean, I don't know when you moved, if it was during the pandemic or before.
Yeah. So I think, again, echoing what Christina said about strength and what Carrie said about kind of looking at 2020 and feeling like you're an improved version of yourself. I had full throttle change in 2020. And I think what I'm happiest about is that I didn't let 2020 get in the way of leaning into change and picking up and still, pursuing ambitions, but with a new perspective. So we were in Charleston at the start of 2020, and in October moved and picked up and moved to New York City. We did the reverse commute. Everyone was fleeing, and we were like,
right.
Yeah. And that's been really refreshing to be a part of the kind of grit and the rebirth of the city in the wake of such a tragic year. So I feel kind of strengthened by that movement overall to be a part of this kind of New York network, and proud to be. So that's been huge. And then just personally and professionally, it's been a year where I had a unique amount of time to incubate and who I was and my own brand, and defining kind of my new lens professionally and personally. So I feel like it's a bit controversial, but in ways I'm grateful for the silver linings that 2020 has brought for me, for sure.
Yeah, I like how you're saying that, the silver linings. I mean, I think in any kind of any kind of situation that seems to be really super challenging or negative, I mean, even tragedy, I mean, there is always some kind of silver lining, that I was really focused all year, even when times were feeling really tough on the roller coaster, just to try to focus on, okay, well, what is the good part? What about for you, Rishi? I mean, what has it done for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a loaded year to say the least. I think from the silver linings first, because I think those are so important. I think it gave me a way to focus more on when I'm working and when I'm not working, and specifically spending time with my family. And I think that was something that was really starting to get very blurred. And had 2020 gone like forecasted, I think it would have been a very different story than where we're at now. Just being able to spend more time with my family, my wife, and my kids, that was something that wasn't necessarily going to be as much of part of the plan as I was able to make it. So I think that was one thing. And really, for me personally, to prioritize the projects I take on instead of saying yes to so much, I think this was a great reasoning to do that, because now I'm so accustomed to having that time in my personal life that I wasn't ever in the last 10 years used to having. So, I think it's changed things in that way. From a business perspective, it's been a rough year to say the least in regards to our team. We have a huge team here at HMR in terms of our production team and our sales team, and it was a hard thing to navigate through. We always were up against, how do we keep a healthy business for everyone to come back to? How do we do what's right for all of our employees? How do we do what's best for everybody, as well as abide by government and state and city laws and regulations? In so many ways, we were beyond blessed to do some pretty major projects last year, even amidst the pandemic. But that did definitely set us up for lots of challenges. And in our industry, we're used to changes. We're not used to 5 changes,
right?
In terms of over 2 years. We're not used to changes of seasonality, or venues, or guest count, or having to deal with a whole other layer of PPE for our team and safety precautions and the way events go together, like we used to know at the back of our hand. So, because of those changes and having the challenges that, are existing even still now to today, I think we're out of it stronger. And I promised myself last year that I will never, ever, 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 ever complain about being busy again.
Right.
As I just told you that I'm going to be selective as to what I take on. But regardless, I think there's so many lessons that we've learned and so many ways we've become strong and resilient. And like kind of looking back, a member of my team put on our calendar last year, exactly 1 year later, oh my God, we made it. And that was on March 16th, I think, is the day we got locked down here in Chicago. And I looked back and I was like, still not there yet. But like thinking of what we thought we were going to be at, 6 weeks from when we got shut down is when I originally thought, like, yeah, we'll be back open. But looking a year later, we're like, wow, we would have never expected this journey. And if someone would have told me it was going to be a year, I think I would have freaked out even more than I really freaked out as the year continued on.
That's an interesting point, right? Because along the way, we didn't know when anything was going to happen. I mean, that's true. That was an interesting point.
I think we've all just lived a year of uncertainty, and even today, everything still feels in limbo, the what ifs, and it's this new normal. Like, I feel like my 3 keywords are empathy, patience, and smarts. Like, you could not get through this year without thinking hard, thinking smart, and valuing, really, really strategic thinking, and then being empathetic to people's needs and being unbelievably patient. And I think those are things we're going to have to carry with us. I hope we all do for a while.
And I think also like the way we've learned, in my specific business, like we're service, which is design, we're an actual retail sale, which is floral, and then we're rental, which is all of our props and different other things. So, we're in a different sector than just someone that's in planning, like, Augusta is, for example. And I think it just taught us so many things of how to restructure the way we do business day to day, even post-pandemic, that we never, ever came into situations with such as contracts, which is as crazy as that sounds. Yes, we had an amazing contract and it was still great, but there's so many new clauses and things that we had to think about. We had to think about being more transparent about elements such as our time spent in designing these things after we spend, hundreds of hours redesigning stuff and never got paid for that. So, I think there's just so many different ways that we will come out of this stronger as an industry. I'm sure certainly as certain businesses and individuals too. But yeah, I think it's been quite the year.
Did anybody have any really major like pivots, reinventions? I'm thinking business, but even personally, but particularly business. Did anyone, have that kind of experience through this? Carrie, you're smiling.
I'm smiling only because I think I'm looking around the Zoom room and like looking at three people that in a really challenging time, like with structure, I think creatives thrive with structure to a degree. I was lucky enough to work on 2 projects with Rishi over 2020. And in my opinion, it was some of his best work, like blown away by the floral design of them. I know that like Team Beahm did a holiday window project that was exceptional that I got to pass like every day as I was walking around like the shops on Madison. I have gotten a chance to work really closely with Augusta. Watching her thrive on her own has been exceptional to see as both her friend and as a colleague. Like it's just to me, they're not pivots or complete reinventions, but I think we've all kind of figured out a new degree of coming into our own. I mean, I'm very proud of the styling work that my team and I are doing too. I think that it's nice to see what happens when creatives are kind of put in a box. We just reinvent where the lid is. We don't completely like reinvent ourselves. It's just a nice restructuring. The term pivot kind of irks me, but I like, I think we thrive when we have parameters.
Well, and I can just speak to my service and Carrie's service. I think we're going into this new post-pandemic chapter with reestablished value in the service that we provide. Our consumers, like Carrie's styling service, she's navigating people through a really challenging time to find honestly what they want in fashion, because fashion suffered this year too, and the mills are closed. And how do you have that standout gown, or how you have that custom experience? And you have a short window to plan, or you have an uber long window to plan, and how do you not duplicate? So it's been amazing to see how her service is now becoming so much more in demand. And I think that's huge. And as a planner, I feel like what Rishi was saying with contract negotiation and this other layer of having someone really steer you through a really rocky experience, relying on a planner and needing that person on your team that you really trust and value. I think selling what we do is going to be a little less hard, personally, moving forward.
Yeah. Christina, is there anything really differently that you feel you're going to do either with David, Beahm, and yourself, the business, as a result of what you've all been through here? Not necessarily like there's a reinvention or a pivot, but just, has it enabled you to rethink anything, restructure anything going forward?
Absolutely. So I have to second what Carrie said. Pivot, to me, it's a misnomer, at least for me. I don't think it doesn't really fit. But what I do think this time allowed us to do is to get off the hamster wheel and really take a good, hard look, because we had the time and we weren't just going from event to event to event, to look at within David Beahm, to be able to have the time and the luxury to reimagine and restructure. How are we presenting our ideas to our clients? How are we showing up and giving them an experience that's better and more innovative and really more caring for their needs? And to be able to give them effectively a vision of what we're dreaming up in our minds that otherwise they sort of, to some degree, have to trust that we're going to be able to execute. And so I have to thank the millennials and the Zoomers in my office who really pushed our team to let's rethink this, and what we have now in terms of our pitch deck and how we are selling is so much more streamlined. It's so much more effective. And I'm so very proud of it. Personally, I light up when I hit the stage and I'm speaking, and being unable to do that or having minimal opportunities to do that was very difficult for me. Yeah. But again, this downtime opened up a new door. So quite organically, what happened for me was that a small number of private coaching clients started reaching out to me during their downtime to rethink and re-strategize their career paths or their businesses. And it became very quickly apparent that not only was there a community of number twos that needed an advisor, but there was also a coterie of entrepreneurs that really needed an honest pair of eyes on their businesses. And so for me, having the opportunity, while I couldn't be on a stage impacting a group of people, I could be working one-on-one on people to help them better their businesses. And so that fed me in the same way. So it was a really lovely opportunity that I look forward to continuing.
I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting last May, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. Rishi, I want to start with you, and anyone can answer, but starting with you, what do you think is going to look different in events post-COVID? Do you feel that there is anything obvious that's going to probably come out and just be different in general about events?
I mean, I think initially, I hope, and it seems like we're starting to see, especially in 2022, that there's going to be not necessarily a milestone or a reason to have a party. I think that is the first thing we're starting to see, which is awesome. I think secondly, and this has nothing to do with, I don't think, spend, but I think it's more so that clients have had to really look, if they were hosting a party or had to reschedule a party or an event or a wedding, they've had to really examine that guest list to see who they can trim out and who they can trim down, similar to kind of what we've had to do for our businesses too, to make it through this pandemic. And I think not only has that made us as businesses more lean and mean, because you've kind of, not necessarily, dead weight's the wrong word, but you've trimmed the excess fat that might not need to be there until you grow larger.
Yeah.
But I think also with clients, they're seeing that maybe they can still have just as incredible of a wedding at 150 guests versus 250 guests, and giving them more confidence, and also the understanding from others that, hey, just because I wasn't invited to that, it's because they were at a limited capacity. So maybe that's a silver lining for us, that we will still have great size budgets and less guests, so you can do more interesting things and experiences. That I think we were already kind of headed down that road, but I think this maybe will expedite that.
Yeah. Anyone else have any comments about that, about how events are going to change?
I would love to riff off something that Augusta said earlier, which is patience. And so I'm gonna go with the less businessy answer. Rishi gave like a solid businessman's answer. I'm gonna go with something a little more holistic, and that's like, I think that as event professionals, each and every one of us on this call, we're all perfectionists, and we all really deeply care about the work that we do, and sometimes that can allow or inspire, I think, environments where if even something goes minutely off track, we're not derailed, but it seems really bad. It seems like it's the worst thing that can happen. And what I think and what I hope this pandemic has made us all rethink is really what's important when it comes to special events, and that we're there. We're healthy, we're safe, we're happy, And that if we can give, and this goes for event professionals and vendors and clients alike, if we can give each other the grace to be human, and sometimes there's things that are messy, sometimes it's not as perfect as we'd love for it to be, but that's also an opportunity of where real brilliance, creative brilliance can occur. So grace. I hope that our events have a little bit more grace and we treat each other that way.
I also think that there's like, to kind of combine all of this, like imperfection is the new perfection. I think that this time alone has gotten people to really get into the nitty gritty of what they want rather than what's expected of them, rather than what they're supposed to do. Couples are more inclined to take risks in everything. Decor, I can very confidently say the clothes are going to be a hell of a lot better once we go back to events, because there isn't that huge chorus of women, aunts, grandmothers, mothers being like, well, you couldn't possibly do that. They're alone. These brides are making these decisions alone, at times with the help of a best friend, a mother, a stylist. There's nobody else there to dilute the vision. It's very much authentic to them. And I think that kind of goes through all of the experiences and all of the decor in a wedding, and even to the photography. I mean, at least the brides I'm meeting, the couples I'm speaking to for Bazaar, are more drawn to moments, joy, subtlety, romance, connection, less to, well, when you fan this dress out over this huge flight of stairs and I hold my bouquet just so, and I look back at you, it'll be beautiful, right? And like, there's no more of that. And I, as somebody who was like hired to do that for so many years, I can't wait to see what those in-between moments are going to look like too.
Yeah, I think you are saying it perfectly right. I think people are really adverse to checking the boxes like they used to, and all of the rules were broken, but by the state of the world, and also just how to pivot. So everything that was a typical function of how a wedding should be planned and what timeline to follow and how to communicate with your guests and what the guests should expect, it all had to be rewritten this year. And now it's kind of all out the window and ready to be rebuilt however the couple wants to and the family wants to. So I have clients right now taking advantage of not having to fall back into the the 2019 type of wedding they would have had to have, and using this momentum to do that intimate destination event that's just a party for their best friends. And yes, it is a reason and a time to get married, but they're going to experience it differently. The clothes are going to be different. Where they invest their money is going to be an experience, a little bit like in the experience you all create beautifully, but also actual tangible experience for their guests. And I just think priorities are shifting, and I don't think it means people are investing necessarily less, but it might be investing more and less people, like Rishi said, or just thinking about it differently and being really experience forward to kind of pull that joy and grace and excitement out of everything.
Yeah, I take this as, you're talking about meaning. I mean, connecting, has always been what it's about, right? But it's, to me now, after this experience, it's even more important, having more connection with people and even more meaning. It's interesting. So I actually, one aspect for the pandemic that was really great for me is that I was dating someone for about a year and a half. We were thinking about whether or not to move in together. And then when the shelter in place thing happened, we thought, well, let's shelter in place. It went so well. We moved in together like 6 months later, and then I got engaged. And so when we thought about our wedding, it's interesting. Here I am being in this business for decades, and I had been married once before. But I know a lot of it for me, the way it impacted me, again, that connection is so much more important. I missed seeing my friends in person, and as well as family, and just checking in on people. Remember in the early part of the pandemic where we were all calling, people and just, how are you? Are you okay? I remember we were going through that. So my fiance and I decided that we're going to have a destination wedding here, like where we live. Instead of having just the 1 day ceremony, cocktail hour, reception, we're going to make it like a whole full weekend right in Maryland where we live. And we cut way back on, I forget which one of you talked about, shaving it down. We're going to have like 50 to 60 people, and we're going to have it over a period of 3 days so people can see each other more than once and really connect. And, That whole trend also, Rishi, I think you were or someone was talking about smaller weddings. And I mean, there was already that trend before the pandemic, right? Now it seemed like, yeah, this is going to really take off even more.
Yeah, the micro wedding. I mean, one of the more profound stories that I heard out of the micro wedding trend or necessity, whatever you want to call that, was a father of the bride who got up during the toast and said, "This is how this event should have always been.
Huh.
This is how it should have always felt." And I just think we all understand the fragility of it all now. It's all so very fragile and so very precious. And I think that has imbued a deeper meaning that should have always been there.
That's well said. There's one more topic I want to get into together, which is, the future now. I mean, now, people are the vaccinations it's really increasing, the rate, especially in the United States. People are getting vaccinated now. It seems like we're coming back to quote unquote normal sooner than expected. Like originally it seemed like it was going to be the fall. Now it's starting to look like summer. There's a lot more going on. I'm wondering how each of you are feeling about life coming back to normal. I mean, we've had this, again, there's the crazy challenges that so many of us have been through, but the other side of it has been the chance to really reassess and find meaning in our own lives and think about what's important and what isn't. And we got off that hamster wheel for a long time. How do you all feel about going back, into normal life? How are you feeling about it? And what are you also looking forward to?
I'm inspired and ready to go. That's me.
You ready to party? I'm ready to get on a plane is what I'm ready to do.
Yeah. But I really hope and need to harness some of the lessons I've learned along the way. I'm aware of it. I'm trying to, be sure that I don't just jump right back on the wheel that I'm pretty comfortable on. But I am very motivated and excited for this next chapter and to see what comes of it. So that's my headspace.
I'm excited for it as well. I'm excited to put, everything that I've learned over the past year into practice. I would like to do a better job of level setting and setting boundaries in my new normal so that I can enjoy it as it happens. But I do agree with you that I think it's going to be summer instead of fall. I mean, my first wedding is with Augusta at the beginning of June. And as far as I'm concerned, that's like the beginning of my new normal. And my birthday is the next weekend. So off we go. That's kind of how I feel about
do it.
Yeah.
I also can't wait. Let's get the show on the road. But at the same time, I am always so weary of saying, oh, this is going to happen, because I think we've all learned that it can totally be pulled from underneath us too at the same time. So, again, just trying to be sustainable and smart, but I am ready.
Let's set a date. We'll just postpone it if it doesn't work.
When can your kiddos go on the road with you, Rish? Because they're just the cutest things.
I mean, we hope soon. My wife and I are both vaccinated now, so that makes us feel more confident. But of course, my son doesn't wear a mask as much, so that's very hard. But my daughter's great about it, so it's really just their safety. I'm jumping in a car and going somewhere, no problem. But unfortunately, drivable distances with that 1.5 and 3.5-year-old from Chicago isn't too sexy at this time. So,
right.
We do want to get on the road and travel again. I've had to do a ton of traveling last year and this year, so navigating through all that was interesting and great too. But so far, remained safe and been okay. So.
But Rishi, what a blessing for you to be able to hunker with your family. For me, I'm really excited, as personal as this is, but I've been in my 450 square foot Manhattan apartment for the past 365 days.
Oh my gosh.
Totally.
And I am just desperate. I mean, I come from an Italian Portuguese family. We live on, we fight and we bicker and we love and it's just this wonderful family. I haven't seen my mother in going on a year and a half now. And
wow.
I just desperately want and cannot wait to go home and, eat her food and and smell her perfume and laugh, have a glass of Chardonnay with her and, you know, lay my head in her lap. Like those just moments, those tender moments with family that I'm so looking forward to having, and seeing my nephews and my siblings again. Those are things that are so poignant to me now that I am just waiting for us all to be vaccinated, and then it's on.
Yeah, I can't wait to be able to start hugging people again.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, and have a meal and a hang inside the house instead of outside the house. I mean, just isn't it amazing how this really magnifies, amplifies the simple things? You know, it's really nice.
Especially when you're around people who you haven't seen in a long time, that you can't hug. Like that's the hardest thing, you know. Like we did a wedding in New York this past fall, and it was 14 people and like very dear clients of mine, and I couldn't hug them. And you know, it's just something that we were so used to doing on a normal basis, but especially on the day of their wedding. You know, just simple things. So, like I said, I would never complain about being busy. I would never take things like that for granted either.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, thank you, everybody, all of you for coming on. Rishi and Carrie and Christina and Augusta. Really appreciate this. I think this is the start. It's like this fresh start in a whole new way to, you know, who knows, very interesting things. So thank you for coming on.
Spring has sprung. Let's go.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Rishi Patel, Carrie Goldberg, Christina Matteucci, and Augusta Cole. Be sure to check out their websites and their social media handles. You can get all of that by going to the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And please share this with your friends and colleagues so they can find out all about it. And if you enjoyed it, please give a top review wherever you find this podcast. So this Wednesday, in lieu of The Next Level, I have a conversation with Matt Porteous, an award-winning photographer who has gained a world-class reputation for his incredible documentary-style photography. He is also considered the royal photographer for his work with the Cambridges. And then on Monday of next week, I have a very special episode with Jen Vasquez and Morgan Childs to talk all about Clubhouse. What is it? Why should we be on it? And how can it help our businesses? You have to tune in next Monday. So that's it for now. We'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.